Did you know that jobs for software developers are expected to grow by 25% between now and 2031? And it's outpacing the average 5% growth rate. So this episode is going to be about what I did to land a software job in 2024. So hopefully it'll be able to help you land yours too. So let me start at the bottom. So one of the very first things I did was I built my very own portfolio from scratch using HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. So I started this project last year. I did it on GitHub Pages. You can go on there. If you have a GitHub account, you can build your own GitHub account for free. Build your own GitHub Pages portfolio for free. Host it on there. It's going to have a github.io domain, but you get to name it after your username. But anyway, I built it, designed it by myself. I also built some projects so that I can showcase on my website. I made a website for a friend at the time for his photography business. He was using WordPress. I added that to my portfolio. I also built my own boxing app at the time for Android. I added that on my portfolio. Everything I ever built eventually went on my portfolio. I didn't have a lot of projects at the time, but building the actual portfolio landing page itself was easy. You can style it however you want. But after the fact was when I needed projects to showcase. So I had to find opportunities. So like I said, my friend needed a website for his photography business. I jumped on that. You can even jump on YouTube, look up tutorials how to build certain types of web pages. There's plenty of creators out there. You can learn how to build, like an NFT landing page or a dashboard or just about anything. And it doesn't have to be web pages. It could be web apps or mobile applications, whatever. So when I was done with that, I finally had a portfolio with at least a few different projects to show off. Then, after that, I made a LinkedIn account. Now, this is important because LinkedIn is like the professional Facebook for adults who are finding jobs, basically. So I optimized it, added a professional profile picture, added the About Me section, and then of course I added my link to my portfolio. So did all that. Then I started networking. I started adding people I knew, family members, friends, people within my network. And then from there, I started to slowly expand my network of other professionals. Look on other people's LinkedIn accounts, see what they added, see what they did. And don't try to copy it exactly, but use it as, inspiration or ideas to build off your own. You're going to want to pay close attention and put some effort into your LinkedIn account because this is where recruiters, hiring managers, and potentially people you're working with, your boss, they're going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile. So make sure it's optimized, it looks professional, it looks good, and squared away. Next, when you're applying for jobs, make sure you don't just have the same resume for every single job. So what I did was I had a template resume, but for every single job I applied to, I made a specific resume tailored for that job that I applied to. So basically copy the description of the job, the key points, key descriptions, paste it into your resume, reword it a little bit to match what you're going for, and then submit the resume. That's pretty much what I did for every single job I applied to, and I applied to hundreds. So yes, you're going to have hundreds of copies of different resumes on your computer. That's what I did. I have a folder on my laptop specifically for resumes, and next to the resume was the job that I applied to. So for example, I saved one as Lidos dash my last name or the specific job title, software developer, entry-level developer, dash the company, dash my last name, etc. Hopefully you get the point. But tailored resumes is the way to go. Next, I did an internship. If you've been following my videos in the past, you know that I did an internship with Allegiant Vets. It was a skill bridge program for active duty military personnel. Now, I know not everyone is military, so however, there are other opportunities for internships just about anywhere that you can find online. The program that I did, they had many different tracks: IT, cybersecurity, marketing. I chose to go with software development, of course. It was a 6-month program. It was an emphasis on Python programming with Google IT automation and such and such. It was great. I learned a lot, and I definitely added that on my resume because recruiters and hiring managers like to see that as a junior developer, at least you had some kind of programming experience, especially involved in an internship. Hopefully, it would lead to employment. In my case, it didn't. However, it was still something good for me to have on my resume. So apply to internships if you can. Some of them are even paid. I have a friend who went to a paid internship at Amazon twice already. And if I'm not mistaken, it pays him about $50 to $52 an hour, which is pretty damn good. So you can get paid to learn and train on the job. And another thing with internships is it helps you expand your network. The people you meet during internships, your peers, your instructors, whoever. You never know who you might meet that could lead you to other opportunities in your dream career field or wherever that may be. The more people that you connect with who are like-minded, the better. Now, the next thing I did, and this is probably one of the biggest things, and I highly recommend doing this, was that I shadowed a senior developer. Luckily, I have a very close family member who was very close friends with this senior developer. So my family member reached out to them, asked them, hey, I have a family member who is trying to get a job in IT, especially as a software developer. Do you mind letting him shadow you for a bit? He graciously allowed me to shadow him for as long as I needed to. I actually shadowed him for about 2.5 months. From Monday through Friday, I was there at his house because he works from home, and he actually works 2 jobs as a software developer, both for pretty good companies. The tech stack he was mainly using was C#.net, but he also had experience in JavaScript, React, Tailwind CSS. But let me tell you folks, shadowing him was one of the best things I could have ever done because I was able to sit down and observe and see what real world on the job coding was. And it's not just that, but I learned so much about being in the real world, working as a software developer, seeing it firsthand. That is priceless. So if you can, I couldn't recommend it enough. While I was there, I had so many different questions. He was more than willing to answer them and help me. I brought my notebook and laptop, of course. I took tons of notes. He explained and showed me the processes of how they do their meetings, agile methodology, Scrum. It was a remote job, so everything he was doing at his home. I got to listen on some meetings too, so that was nice. I got to see what it was like. And he kept reiterating basically the entire time, so this is what the day in the life of a software developer is. So do you think you'll like it? I was like, yeah, I think I do. It seems fairly easy. I mean, you just hop on work at a certain time, do what you got to do, hop on meetings here and there. Truthfully, it really was what I wanted to do because, as you guys already know, it was my dream to be a software developer for a very long time. I even got to read some of the documents from his work, so I understood their ways, their methods of designing, their architecture, their software, their processes. And I especially got to see his code base. He gave me a bunch of small different tasks, and those really helped. I learned about the MVC architecture, which is Model, View, Controller. It's a very common framework for ASP.NET. I got to see the projects they were working on. It was hosted on his local development server on localhost, so I got to mess around a little bit with that, with his supervision, of course. I didn't get to do anything too crazy because obviously, that's for his work, his company. I don't want to mess anything up, but everything was done through his supervision. And he even helped me apply for jobs. He was looking for jobs for me, helping me with my resume, and even helping me with interview techniques, which was extremely helpful. So if you're out there and you're struggling to find a job, I highly recommend doing your best to find someone that you can shadow. Reach out to someone, email them, cold call, a company near you. Be like, hey, do you have a software developer or anyone in your IT department that would be willing to allow me to shadow them for a day or a week, something like that. I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult to be able to do something like that. If you're going to try that, don't do it expecting to get a job out of it. If you do, great. But this is more for a learning opportunity for you. So bring your notepad, bring your laptop, and focus on learning and absorbing as much information as you can. Truly be curious to what it's like in a day in the life of a software developer. And if you can find one who works remote, even better. They might be willing to allow you in the home. Maybe it's a friend or family member, like in my case. Or if they have to work in the office, see if you can shadow them at the office. And folks, when I interviewed for the current job that I have right now, I did tell them during the interview process that I was actually shadowing someone, and they seemed to like that during the interview. And it just so happens that one of the tech stacks that my job is using is C#.net. I told them I'm shadowing a senior developer right now who is using those tech stacks, and they seem to really like it. So I think that was one of the, maybe not main, but it's one of the small determining factors of why I got the job, on top of other ones. Now, this brings me back to my last point. When you're applying to jobs, this might seem obvious, but apply to the jobs that are based on your own skill sets and niche. Don't apply for something that's out of your league or out of your skill sets. So, for example, if you're a web developer, you probably don't have the skills, or you shouldn't be applying to a backend developer job that uses Python or C#, for example. You would be applying for jobs that use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, any kind of front-end framework, especially ones that you have experience in. Now, you might be taking a chance and applying to everything to see what you can get. That's what I did too in the beginning, but I've noticed that when I narrowed down my job search and apply to the ones and filter out the ones that I didn't or shouldn't, I had better chances. I had more return calls, return emails, and those landed to more interviews. So save yourself the time, apply diligently, but be smart about it, and apply to jobs based on your own skill sets. So that's pretty much it, folks. So remember, shadow someone, mid-level, senior developer, take notes, try to do an internship, make a portfolio, build some small side projects, tailor your resumes, and apply for specific jobs based on your skill sets and experiences. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.